All right. So, hello, everybody. Coach Scott again. And it's a pleasure once again to bring you yet another amazing interview. And again, we're talking all things sustainable. And I try to focus on things that help build a better community. And as I do this, the universe is bringing more and more people into my life that are of the same wavelength. And yet again, today I have somebody that fits that bill just amazingly well. And we met once again through my dome business. And so that seems to be happening a lot. But I'll do a call out to each one of you that if you have an expertise in the self-sustainability world, and you're trying to make a change for the better and trying to correct the broken system we're in, I have a call out for you now to come on in, come part of the fold. Let's talk. Let's get the message out to the rest of the world. So today, I'd like to introduce you to a wonderful individual by the name of Anita Sommers, and what she's got for us today is the first, I believe, of many, many conversations to come. So without further ado, Anita, go ahead and introduce yourself to the pack.
Hi, yes, thank you so much, Scott, for your time, and I appreciate the work that you and Natalie are doing at Gaia Dome Solutions. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
My name is Anita. On social media, you're going to find me as CBD Genie, and a little bit of my background. I was in the Air Force for 8.5 years, certified microbiologist for 15 years. From 2017, I actually educated the endocannabinoid system, just explaining how nature works, lock and key with the body, how we just match perfectly.
Nice.
After that, yeah, that was a magical journey. After that, I from 2019 to present, I've been working on bringing an abandoned farm back to life, using permacultural practices. And since 22 to present, I've added beekeeper to the skill set. So actively working with as a whole.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I want to talk about the regenerative process and what that means. And I'm not sure people understand how to take land and make it viable again, which is really what we're talking about, right? So take us down that journey of how did you go from molecular biology to now working land and not working in a lab? How did that happen?
Yeah, so well, the why is actually really personal. For 10 years, I went in and out of the hospital with ulcerative colitis. And for those who are not familiar with that, that is basically when your large intestines have ulcers and you've got symptoms like chronic lower abdominal pain, high fever, and the worst, dysentery. And I was really tired of being a slave to my bowels. And with the knowledge of microbiology and cell and molecular biology, I wanted to see how nature, the original, because every single drug known to man is a replica of nature. So I just wanted to understand that a little better. And I found that there was more similarities than anything else. In fact, I've held workshops out here with soil science versus if you go to get your blood work done. And really, it just comes down to understanding what are the deficiencies? What is missing? What do you need to add? What do you need to balance out? Right. So it's the same thing with the body. It's the same thing with soil health. And that's what the journey I've been actively on out here.
Gotcha. Wonderful. So, how did you realize that the land that you're on? Well, first, how did you pick the land that you're on? How did that happen?
Oh, that just kind of magically happened. So when I started in the cannabis space and the education of the endocannabinoid system, my business partner actually asked me, because she's a realtor, "Hey, if you help me sell this property, I'll give you a cut." And who wouldn't want a little piece of the pie just
Right.
to get some thing? But the thing was, in 2019, when I put it out to the world, it was an abandoned farm. So all people see is work and just all the labor that is going to be coming in. And only one person reached out to me. And after that, I was like, what about us? Why don't we do this? And so since 2019, I put my Air Force combat boots back on and literally was out here. The first couple of years, I wouldn't walk around without my boots and my machete because there were rattlesnakes everywhere.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so that's another reason why it took a while before we actively got the community out here, because it's pretty sketch out here for a while.
I believe
So
it.
so that's how the land was presented to me. And then the journey that I was on, every single time I would give a talk about the benefits of, cannabis and all this, down to the biochemistry, the very next question is, well, where do I get it?
Right.
And so, without knowing the practices of the cultivators, it was really hard to be able to answer that question because there's
Sure.
just so many variables there. So now I'm on the journey with working with the elements and finding the balance of it all.
Nice. And so you're just outside of Austin, I believe, right?
29 miles northeast of downtown Austin. Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Wonderful. So I know that can be a tough area. Heat is a factor in Texas for sure.
Absolutely.
And that's 21 acres you have out there, right?
There are 21 acres, and not only heat, the biggest variable out here is actually wind, because out of nowhere, 22-mile gusts of wind will just come and sweep up the space. And it's one of the biggest elements that we have to work with as far as builds, because it's
Interesting.
so random. There's no wind break out here, and roofs just be coming off around here.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's so interesting. So, well, reason you first reached out to me, then my homes might be a good solution because there's no roofs to take off.
Exactly. That dome,
Mhm.
it'll just kind of just go right over, be really.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that would be a definite good addition whenever we finally get to that phase of the relationship. So wonderful. Okay. So you are now reclaiming the soil. Are you turning it into a garden, a permaculture center, or are you just still trying to get it to be viable to do any one of those things?
All of the above. Understanding what the variables are, understanding the elements that I need to protect against, what are my pests, all of that, because every season since 2019 has been different. Nothing has been a copy paste like, okay, now I know what to do for next year. Well, at least that's what I thought at the beginning, but the weather's been different, the pests have been different. It's all of it, and just being able to understand that you have no control of anything, and once you can let that go and just have plans and ideas of a calendar and know that that can change at the last minute, once you understand that, then everything becomes it was a little hard at first
Sure.
to do that, because you with nature, you're just kind of at the mercy of the elements.
Sure, for sure. And in terms of like places like Florida, we supposedly can grow year round, right? But the issue with Florida is that because we can grow year round, bugs are alive year round. And so our pest control is a massive issue here. But also, you got to know what grows in the right season. And we have different zones, and I'm sure it's the same in Texas. So, South Florida is not the same as Central or North Florida. And so, I have certain tomatoes that work here, but not where I'm going to be growing my dome, raising my dome. So, well, back to the land then. If it is so unpredictable, have you thought about greenhouses? And I know you have a big one with your property. Oh,
Oh
coming
yeah.
in.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. The big one, the reason why that one hasn't taken off is because if you're not utilizing the whole thing, you're spending more money on utilities than anything
True. True.
to make.
Yeah.
So that's why I've just been doing baby steps with gardens and providing small scale produce for the community, and just having them come out here and harvest it themselves. They see what they like. And it's just been honestly off of a donation base at the beginning, because, after being in a lab for most of my career there, it's a completely different world, because now we're out, instead of being in a sterile environment, we're just out here. So I wanted to see how it worked and see if what would actually even grow here. I've learned, I can grow an amazing salsa garden, because the pests don't really mess with the peppers. They don't care for it, right? But there's other crops that it's difficult to grow, because the pests are just devouring them. Brussels sprouts would be is one example.
Well, I assume you're trying to do organic.
Yeah. Oh, yes. We actually have two tubs that we upcycled and made worm compost bins. So vermiculture is a big deal here for us as well. So that way we just provide them that microorganism boost whenever, for the roots, when we transplant out into that way they have what they need, and the enzymes and proteins to continue to go.
Nice. The land that you're on, a couple questions about that. Does Texas have sand or soil?
Well, we have a lot, but in fact, like you were mentioning, all the different zones, the same thing with Texas. It's so wild around here. Even just 20 minutes away, my property is Houston Black, which is Texas clay.
Okay.
And but just 20, and it's just black land prairies. But my neighbors have like sandy and red type of grounds. So we have different snakes, we have different pests, we have different everything. It's a completely different environment. So, and that's just 20 minutes down the road.
And you each have to amend your soil a little differently to make things grow.
100%. And so that's why the saying goes, if you've been to one farm, you've been to one farm.
One farm,
because there's so many ways, so many variables, so many things.
Here in Florida, it's not as bad, I don't think, but we do have South Florida, as an example, has coral rock. And so you have to build things up. You don't do a lot of gardens. You do a lot of raised beds and those types of things. But then the rest of Florida is mostly sand until you get into the panhandle and you finally start getting dirt. So sand's a lot different to grow in than dirt is, and you have to amend it quite a bit. So I'm going through this. Yeah, I'm going through this in my land. It's not dissimilar. I've got just 5 acres here in Florida, and I've had to start to modify that land. And so it was raw land. And so it had all the natural Florida habitat, which is a lot of palms and overgrowth and vines and this type of thing. So I've had to chop those things back and go, oh, look, there's land under here. But it's soil, and ants are a massive problem, I'm sure, in Texas too. And so we're having to deal with the ants at the same time in an organic manner. We could just bomb them with some pesticide, but then we ruin the whole practice of what we want to do, which is organic on our farm. So, so I'm kind of with you on that. I don't have as much land, but that's the trials that we're going through on our property at the moment.
I'm the same way with the ants. What I usually do is I just get the garden hose and I just flatten them out every time. So that way they know that they can be around, they just can't grow up. I'm like the HOA, like too high. You can't grow this high and you can't grow right here. I mean, you can be around, but you're getting a little bit out of the perimeter.
That makes sense. I do find, and maybe you can give your advice on this, the more active your land becomes, like in my case, when I start building the dome, that the wildlife starts to kind of move away from the area that you're very active in anyway. So maybe when the dome starts to arise, that some of them just start to find new homes naturally anyway.
100%. You start making that border and they'll respect it. They understand it. And I kind of became the grasshopper assassin. I would, they were the worst pests, and I would pick one up and I would tell everyone, look, this is what happens when you come into this garden. And then I would thank them for their service and I would say, I'm
Sure.
sorry. The plants love them. And then I just put them back into the soil.
There you
And
go. Yeah, yeah. Beautiful.
unfortunately, kind of the yin and the yang of it
I
all.
understand. I understand for sure. So tell us about beekeeping. Bring us up to speed on that. I'm interested in that.
Oh, yeah. Beekeeping is such a magical journey. It's awesome to be able to get in to see how they live and the differences of it all. I have to give Hives for Heroes, the nonprofit out of Houston, a shout out because what they do is they connect veterans to beekeepers for mentorship. And I was able to get connected to a beekeeper, and now for almost 2 years, been working actively with, wow, up to 30 different hives now, I believe the number was.
Wow.
Awesome, because you get to experience all the different, they're just like people. They're all the hives are not the same. Some work
Yeah.
hard. Some don't, some don't at all. They just kind of do the bare minimum. Some are very aggressive. Some are just like, oh, hey, what's up? You're in here today? All right, well, and then see you later. So it really just, it's just an experience that you just want. It's kind of a hands-on type of thing because the
Sure,
very
sure.
endless as well.
I've thought about it on my property. In order to become ag certified in the state of Florida, I need to have, for 5 acres, I need to have about 24 hives. So yeah, so it's going to be
Wow,
a lot of bees on a small property if I want to go down that route. And I'm still gauging if I want to or not.
that's insane because here, 20 acres, you only need 13.
Oh, really?
And
So
that's a lot
it's a lot.
already.
It's a
That's a
lot,
lot.
yeah. So that's I've kind of based on what you said. Sometimes some are active, some are not, some are aggressive, some are not. I I would want to, if I did it, I would research really well which ones are not as aggressive, like Italians, as an example. So Italian bees I've heard are a little calmer.
Mhm.
But also what I've heard is that uh, others can come into your hive and start to overtake your hive and make your hive aggressive, even though they weren't originally. So you have to weed out the aggressive ones. And that's the things that I don't know about quite yet, anyway.
That, and as well as you could replace the queen, have them replace the queen and have a new ruler in a sense to, but that's not a guarantee that they're going to be less aggressive, but it would
Right,
change the ship of the
right.
colony. So there's a
Wonderful.
lot of ways there. You could bring in a queen. You could have them make their own queen because they are the owners and rulers of everything, of how many drones are going to be made, how many worker bees will be made. They control everything.
Right. Wonderful. How do you harvest the honey and sell it and that type of thing?
Oh yeah.
How?
And we just did a event, the Texas Wellness Day event this past Saturday. Anything that involves wellness and education, community, family, all of those are just bells just ringing for me. It's that's my energy and vibe right there. So we have sold honey, we've sold cut comb as well. Um, we've sold wax, and but this is actually, September is actually National Honey Month, and that's basically because this is the month that we start to not mess with them as much anymore because they need to have their groceries for the winter. So we
Okay.
probably a little bit more, a couple more boxes, but for the most, and that's another thing. Since we're not commercial beekeepers, we we actually really work with the bees. If we can tell that they don't have much going on in there, we just won't mess with
Okay.
them. But then the bees, I feel like the bees are getting smarter though, because I feel like they're like, oh, if we don't have that much honey, they won't come in here. So you gotta, it's a dance, because they're smart. They're all so smart. Oh, who's this? Who
This
just
is
joined?
vegan. Yep. This is vegan. Hi.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, we
Okay.
we have two. We have this one, and we have a blue French bulldog also.
Oh my goodness, that's
Yeah.
adorable.
So, all right. So you have how many hives again?
On this property, we have 9 currently.
Mhm.
9 boxes. However, here's another thing. On this property, there's an over 100-year-old farmhouse, and the whole north side wall of that house is bees.
Ah,
So, so it's basically just one grand bee box is what it is. And I told them that, and I was like, can I get credit for this? At least it's like a huge bee box right here in and of
right.
itself. But they don't work. It doesn't work like
It
that.
doesn't work that way. That's funny.
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. And the whole relocating process, you have to quarantine the bees. Like I work with my mentor, Bo, and we relocate the bees to his farm, and then we'll bring them back in those boxes here. Because if we just put them in a box and just relocate them just, X amount of yards away, they'll always go back to the
Ah,
farmhouse.
okay.
I mean, because they're living their best life in there. So we're not
Sure,
saving the bees per se. We're just relocating them.
sure, sure. That's interesting. That's interesting. So, walk us through the process of retrieving honey. Do the bees get mad about that? I mean, that's their food source for the babies, right? So how
It
does that
is
work?
it's their groceries, and that's again why we it will check the box. We'll ensure that they're going to be fine. For example, through the winter, or it also honey is a product of its environment. So if the season is dry and they're not able to pollinate, and they don't have many flowers or just crops around, that's going to all be considered whenever we're harvesting. But what we do is we just take out the frame, and there's a couple of ways you can just uncap it, put it into a centrifuge, an extractor, and just spin it, and all the honey will go to the sides, and then we'll strain it. Or you can do the cut comb, where you literally cut the comb out of the frame, and you're going to get the wax and the honey. But the thing is, when you do that, when you do the cut comb, now the bees have to start all over. But when
Right.
you uncap it and you just extract the honey, you're giving them back the furniture. They just got to refill it.
Sure.
So,
How do you capture it then? Put a 5-gallon bucket underneath it, or how does that work? Yeah.
yep, we just put a strainer over the gallon bucket, and we just strain it, and we do that a couple of times, and then that's it. Hive to table honey.
Nice. How many gallons per year do you think you can get out of one hive?
Oh gosh, that's hard to say, again, because of the
Oh, fair
variable.
question. Yeah.
But this year, so far, I would say we've extracted um 12 gallons this year so far.
Total
Um
from all hives.
Total from the high, yes, total. Well, that was actually with only, I think, 12 hives or 11 hives. Yeah, maybe 12 hives. It's really hard to say, because a lot of the frames, they're not, some of them will be completely full, some of them just half, some of them, it's
Gotcha, gotcha,
a little
gotcha.
different time.
Well, let's back up just one step, go back to the land and growing. What do you think your long-term plans are for? I think you've talked about a retreat, a resort. Are you thinking an education center, a resort, maybe a larger garden, maybe hemp? What are you thinking? What's your long-term plans for the land?
Yeah, the main thing is to inspire, people to reconnect to nature via permacultural practices, sustainability, via workshops for the community. Um, Definitely teaching children as well, um, taking it to the basics, having them come out here. I taught children science for over 20 years across the globe,
Wow.
and to be back and teaching them how to grow their own food and just having that knowledge and understanding that the grocery store provides it for you, but that's not where your food comes from, and
Right.
really taking it to the soil to understand. And yes, right now, because all of this is under construction, I would still say we've just been providing an outdoor venue space. We've hosted from dog parties to ceremonies where we burned my friend's wedding dress. She was going on to a new chapter of her life.
Okay.
No, it's more of it's like a sacred space for reconnecting, feeling the positive energy out here. Because that's the thing, there's something about the energy here because it's been provided a labor of love for so many years. And the butterflies, like when the monarchs come through, they'll start coming through next month as they do their migration. All the birds, I mean, the dragonflies, you're really just a part of it here. So it's nice to just be living within the ecosystem and just see. I mean, the butterflies, it's kind of funny, and I have so many friends that can vouch for this. They kind of have OCD. If a butterfly kisses you, they have to kiss you twice. So
Interesting.
they'll come and they'll like either on your face, on your shoulder, on your head, wherever they do it. They'll come and then they have to come back and do it again, and then they'll be
Mhm.
on their. I don't know
Interesting.
why. So it's
Me neither.
every different experience out here when they reconnect with nature. And that's just what I want to be able to provide at a small scale. Because if you get too many people out here, it kind of changes the energy. It's kind of one of those
Interesting.
things where you got to feel it. And then when it comes to like collaborations with you all, just to be able to, wow, what an amazing thing to be able to grow hemp cannabis to provide for the dome in and of itself would be so magical, from it to grow, to be the phytoremediation of the soil, and then in turn to be the materials for the home, all of that, and then to educate so people can actually walk into the tiny dome, to
Right. Yeah,
cells and
that'd be beautiful. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
mm,
I don't know if my listeners understand, but hemp, it's an amazing thing, guys. And this is not what this today's conversation about, but from seed to harvest. And harvest then could be turned into either the hemp hurd we need for the hemp domes that she's talking about, or it could be processed and turned into hemp wood. That whole process can be 120 to 180 days. So when we talk self-sustainability, it takes trees years and years and years, decades sometimes to grow. But hemp, we can grow into clothes, we can grow into wood, we can grow into the home we're talking about in literally 3 months. And so this will be future things that we talk about more in depth. But it's a very cool thing that you just mentioned. So I appreciate it.
absolutely that, and also just using solar and wind and rain harvest, right? Just those are practices we already actively use out here. In fact, when the roof fell off the workshop, I flipped it and turned it into a rain capture system that now for every 1 inch of rain, it will collect 27 gallons of water. And
Nice.
so upcycling is the name of the game out here. Just trying to use the land, upcycle materials that we find.
Well, that's the game of permaculture anyway, right? So you're already putting those practices into place at your establishment. So, well, I can't wait to see it. I know one day I'll get out there and we'll meet, whether we do the domes or not. We'll do this because my long-term vision is to create a hands-on, or maybe a series of hands-on education centers that teach all things self-sustainable, things that had been lost from the school systems. They've yanked them out because they just teach kids today to learn how to test. They don't teach them any more basic skills of life. And so we need to bring those things back. Like you said, the basics of growing food. It's a horrible thing. Kids, they don't know where stuff comes from, and how it's originates and that type of thing. I think though we find that the more rural you get, the more some of the kids do know those things, but it's the city kids who really start to lose touch with some of that. And so we got to reach out to those cities, like in my case, Miami, Orlando, Tampa, those types of things. But the people in, say, Chiefland, where I'm growing, my education will run dry pretty quick because a lot of the kids grow up, on farms already. So I have to teach them different things than just raising food. And that's where all things sustainable come in.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head with that one, because myself being new to cultivation anyway, well, since 2019, versus all the generational farmers out here, I'm the newbie out here. So I'm the newbie. However, I'm familiar because working in microbiology, right? I might not have been cultivating food, but I was cultivating microorganisms, and it's the same
Sure.
principles. Environment, the media, the pH, the temperatures, it's all the same. Just a micro scale versus the macro world. So
Absolutely.
yes,
Well, I would think too that your knowledge of microbiology, molecular biology, you're able to understand the soil remediation better than most, because the soil is all about biology. Soil is about everything that lives or dies within it. And if there's too much toxins in it, just like in our body, we've got to get those toxins out. Good question for you. Was the land that you were on, was it pure raw Texas land, or was it used for something else before that you had to clean up?
So historically, it was actually one of the first certified organic farms in Texas, according to the TDA and then later the USDA.
Okay.
They were known for certified organic tomatoes. So they definitely grew, they had agriculture practices going on out here, but they also had the big greenhouse as well. All my neighbors right now, the crop is cotton. Everyone has cotton going. Behind me to the south is cattle pasture. To the north is cattle pasture, and I think they had corn this year. And then just east of me is all the cotton. So I'm in the farm country, where everybody's actively growing. Practices are, we don't have the same mindset when it comes to cultivation and ag, but I'm just going to continue on with the how I'm going.
Sure,
Because
sure. Yeah.
again,
I bet,
generational farmers.
yeah, I bet dollars to donuts, you're at the end of all of it, your soil is going to be a lot healthier than monocropping ever will be, right?
100.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now you have an opportunity if you haven't already used it, with the cow pastures that are there. The manure composting is a very cool microbiology experiment, right? And so composting is an amazing thing. I don't know if you've gotten into it or plan to, or you know something about it. Maybe I don't, but I plan on composting.
definitely. Except the fact that they use pesticides. They use all the things. They do crop dusting. They do all the things. So I'm not trying to those cattle are what they eat. So I'm trying
Yes, for
to,
sure.
unfortunately, that wouldn't work yet. Maybe one day.
Okay, gotcha. So
Yes,
yeah,
you're
you just
right.
have,
You're right though about that.
yeah, you'll have to find a source of somebody who does some type of organic farming around them. So, all right. Well, wonderful. Before I
Oh,
let you
and
go,
here.
oh, look here.
This is
Beautiful.
Stormy.
Hello. Who is it?
She's this is Stormy. She's definitely interested in what's going on here. She's been trying to get up on the table the whole time. So I finally gave her shot, her shine in the spotlight.
Nice. Hello, Stormy. Yeah. Oh, so before I get to my last piece, you have become a dog mom, I believe.
Oh,
Because, yeah, tell us about that.
oh, so well, Stormy also and Nala were two strays, two pregnant strays that I wasn't aware of that found their way here, felt the love and the energy of the farm. And Nala gave birth to 15 puppies, 11 survived. She had a couple of runts. She gave, Stormy the cat gave birth to 7 kittens, 6 survived. And in fact, the room that I'm in right now was the animal nursery.
Okay.
And we worked with the shelters, the community shelters all around, and all the puppies were adopted. All the kittens are all, everyone's got homes now, and they were able to. We got them nice and big and strong and potty trained and everything.
Nice.
So yeah, that was a fun, ooh, hardworking journey, but it was
Hard
fun
work. Yeah. Hard work.
all
I
at
have just
once.
all at once. I have just the two. And so it's work just with that. I can't imagine what you had to go through on that. Yeah.
17 babies. We had 17 babies. All at only they were born, the kittens were born 5 days after the puppies. So it was
Oh my goodness.
the hoot.
Sure. I suppose the good thing is that cats are a little more independent even at that age than dogs are, right? So I'm sure
100
you probably had an easier job with Stormy than you did the other. What's the doggy's name?
Nala.
Nala. Okay.
Mm.
Nice. All right. So, is there any last things you'd like to tell people, and how, if somebody would want to contact you, if you want them to, for a retreat or to get closer to nature, how would they contact you?
So the best way is on Instagram. It's cbd.genie, cbd.genie, and just DM me. However, if you don't have Instagram, email address is asommers4444 at gmail.com. And that's ASOMMERS 4444 at gmail.com. And if family, community, education, permaculture, sustainability, if any of those words tickle your fancy, let's
Beekeeping?
beekeeping, yes, all of those things. If gardening, anything, soil science, all the things, even down to wellness. I understand how it feels to be in the hospital, going in and out of the hospital for 10 years and trying to find the balance in nature and consuming the right foods. I had to make a grand change in my life and understanding all of that, down to the phytocannabinoids, so, or phytocompounds, just with any plant really.
Sure. Yeah. Beautiful.
Reach
Beautiful. Well, that'll be just amazing. And when I start my dome build up here, maybe we'll have you come up and we'll talk a little bit of soil, beekeeping, sustainability here on my property as well.
I'd love that. I'd love that. Just connecting with like-minded souls that just have similar values. That's the most important thing, because this mission is just so much greater than the both of us. It's so important. And if we can just be that
Absolutely.
ripple of positive change, that's all we can do.
Sure. I would ask you to put your thinking cap on, and how can you on a call like this, dig into the biology piece a little bit more. Not for this call, maybe for a future call. Help people understand from a soil body perspective of how we can improve our bodies and the soil. So think on that as maybe a next call. You've got some great experience there that I think we could pull off of, and we'll dig deeper next time around. So
Definitely. I've already done a workshop on that. I even have the poster boards from it. So I already have that particular thinking cap ready to go. So just let me know when.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, guys. Well, this has been Anita and Coach Scott bringing to you, hopefully, a subject that rings true to you. If you want any other questions answered, and like she said, if anything tickled you, respond below and we'll get an answer back to you. Anita, if you can, send me that email and I'll post it below. This is going to go on my YouTube and my Instagram as well. And so if you get a chance, you put this on your Instagram. And for us, guys, you can find us at GaiaDomeSolutions.com. We are providers of natural, self-sustaining homes through Dome Homes. And hopefully we can help you out one way or another. This is Coach Scott and Anita out.